Welcome to PPR podcast number 78, brought to you by Renovation Realty. My name is Paul. To my right is
Bert.
This is a guy we've been trying to get for a couple times now.
Busy man.
Explain to everybody who our guest is.
Chris Fore. You can find him at chrisfore.org, or also 8 Laces, which I got a lot of questions for you on 8 Laces. Do we call you a coach's consultant, an agent, career development, all of those
principal?
things?
Are you a principal?
All of the above. Yeah, I'm a principal in my day job. I am. I'm a principal and consultant to coaches and schools.
So, Chris, where are you right now? Where are you sitting?
I'm sitting in my office here on a little break. I'm a principal at Mojave High School up here in Hesperia.
So you're a ways away in the desert.
Yes, sir.
And yet you are a prominent voice in the San Diego football community. I met you on Twitter, and I just thought, wow, I want to talk to this guy one day because your presence, you seem to be a rational voice in a sea of irrationality sometimes. And and that's what attracted me to you. I wanted to pick your brain a little bit. I think Bert would agree, right?
Yes, and I have some questions for you. Well, you know what, let's just start, because I have a couple. I saw your thing, Deion Sanders. Gets the job. I think everybody saw the video where he met his team for the first time with an interesting, way of doing it nowadays. His coaches.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we should explain people. He basically said, "Hey,
get
leave.
out. Yeah, get out. I
got a better team coming."
Basically, you come home from the bar and you tell your wife and kids, "Get out. I met somebody at the bar. You got an hour to pack your stuff."
So, like a kid like at Cathedral, Victory Johnson, who committed to Colorado prior to Deion even being in the conversation, how does he hear that?
Yeah, I think it was I think part of the conversation was good that he had. He talked about this is a new day, but I just thought as a guy who's been not at a position like Colorado, but going in as a brand new head football coach to a group of kids, and that's what these guys are. They're kids, they're student athletes. I just thought overall it was real negative. It was, hey, you're not good enough. And look, Colorado struggled, but is it the kids in that room? Is it their fault? Or does that fault lie on the shoulders of the coaches who aren't there anymore? So I just thought it was a real negative way to do things, in my opinion. But I'm a principal. I'm not a Division I head football coach. So I just thought overall it was not a very good way to introduce yourself to the team.
So what do you think? So going forward, we're all from a generation where coaches were around 30 years. I think the only one around here now is probably Sean Doyle. John Carroll, Shacklet. You think of these, Herb Meyer. You think of these people. And nothing against, but you get Deion. Eric Weddle just got the job at Rancho Bernardo. Is there a new kind of coach coming in now? You think we're all just seeing in front of our eyes where it's changing and it's not what it used to be?
I think so. Bert, I started about 6 years ago, longer, 2015. I started documenting every head football coach change in Southern California. I defined that by the San Diego section, LA City section, and the Southern section. Just over 600 high schools who play football in those 3 sections. And the turnover is between 14 to 22% every single year the last 7 years. And so I do think we're in a new day and age. I don't think the old, Dick Haynes at Vista, Tom Pack, my mentor at Fallbrook High School, 26 years, I think. I don't think we're going to see those guys moving forward. It's just not going to happen. The John Carrolls, the Shacklet, as you mentioned.
Why?
I think why there's 3 answers, right? Number one, it's administrative. Honestly, you got a lot of administrators out there who do not know how to manage athletics anymore. In the old days, a lot of administrators were former coaches. And so good, bad, or indifferent on what administrators these days look like, but they have a very difficult time navigating the pressures of parents. That takes me to reason number 2. It's parents. We've got parents out there these days that they have a very unrealistic expectations of a head football coach, of a head soccer coach, all coaches. Every kid's going to Division I, right? All their kids are going to Division I. And they think the coach owes them so many things. And look, these coaches, a lot of them are coaching for $3,200, $3,800. And then the third reason is specifically to football, it's become a 12-month job. And so, back in the day, I know in the 70s, Dick Haynes brought summer, quote unquote, summer football to San Diego. I talked with, again, Coach Pack a long time about that years ago, where those San Diego coaches used to get their summers off. Dick Haynes moved out here, I think, from Ohio in the 70s and started working out with his kids in the summer. And then guess what? Vista and Fallbrook, who hated each other, Coach Pack started to have his kids work out in the summer to stay up. And so it's now, they start throwing the ball in January. And so I think those are the three reasons we're seeing that turnover.
The football's gotten better, though. I mean, if you're look at the sophistication of passing attacks with the advent of spring and summer ball, I mean, there's no denying that we didn't run this kind of offense back in the 70s. We didn't have the wherewithal.
Yeah, I'm from the 80s.
Or 70s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. We represent 3 decades, I'm sure. But the football's gotten better, hasn't it?
I'd say yes and no. I mean, there's a team up here in the southern section. I can't remember now. They didn't throw a pass. Sorry, LA City section. They didn't throw a pass all year, and they just won a CF championship.
That's San Diego State.
So
San Diego State? Or no? All right. We got a college here that does that.
Has it gotten better? Yeah, we might throw the ball better. I would argue we don't defend the run nearly as better, and we don't run the ball nearly as better across the board these days. So
fair enough.
So, I mean, when I got here, I mean, it'd be unfathomable for me 5 years ago. Oceanside job comes up that everybody from all over the place would be applying for that job, want that job. People aren't even really talking about it here. I mean, Oceanside, the demographics have changed. It's not Oceanside what we all believe anymore. And I think, Carlsbad, Mission Hills, obviously Cathedral, and some of those, are responsible for that. But are you hearing a lot of interest in that job, or is it just so-so interest?
I think 3 or 4 weeks ago, it seemed to be a lot of interest in that job, a lot of folks asking questions about that job. I know they had their second round of interviews today. So from what I've heard, it's down to 3 guys, 1 out-of-state guy. And, yeah, it's not your typical big couple of names, that you would really see for a job like that down there. So it is interesting to see how there was a lot of fuel on that fire a month ago, and then it's kind of died out. Not a lot of excitement in the last couple of weeks for that job for whatever reason among coaches.
Why can't we do what colleges do and pay coaches a living wage, a better than living wage, to do their thing? Because, Chris, I can look back on my life, and I'm here because of the coaches in my life, not because of any one teacher. And yet the teachers are all getting a sweet deal or a sweeter deal. Why can't we we spend money out of the budget willy-nilly. Why can't we shove a little money towards people who actually have a more direct connection with these student athletes?
Yeah, unfortunately, here in California, it all comes down to the measurables, right? The academic measurables. So there's this thing, long story, but the California dashboard is what people look at to see if a school is having success, if those dollars are changing thing. And that dashboard is all about math and English and graduation rates and suspension rates. It's not about how a kid feels about being connected to an adult. You know, as a principal, I want every single student on my campus to be connected to one adult. Wake up in the morning excited to see that adult. Like you said, for me, that adult for me was Tom Pack, our athletic director, head football coach, who played a big influence in my life. Not just him, but other coaches on my campus. I wish there was a metric for us to be able to measure those things with athletics, to where lawmakers and state superintendent, et cetera, would pour more money into athletics. It's really sad to see the state of affairs in high school athletics in California in many ways. And a lot of that does come down to that investment that schools are making. It's not very much, you know, so, but that's why, you know, it's not a metric that state lawmakers and those funding schools really, really care about.
So, well, I mean, I could argue and it would be accurate. Suspension rates are down if you're in sports because you don't want to miss the game. grades are up because you have to have a 2.0 or 2.5 to be eligible. I mean, these things, do they just not measure it?
Well, they're measuring the entire school. They're not just measuring student athletes.
But it's still a big piece. I mean, it's not, if 100 kids are on your football team, I remember we used to be at Hoover. It would be, if you looked at semester 1 as opposed to semester 2, there was a big difference in GPA, big difference in suspension, discipline, everything. But I don't think anybody's really measuring it. But even a couple 500 kids is a big block.
No, you're right. And at the local level, that's what athletic directors and those admin who really care about sports, they need to be doing at the local level with their school boards to get that proper funding and get more funding allocated at the local level. Break down attendance rate. Attendance is an important thing. Again, suspension, you're right. Suspension goes down, attendance goes up when athletes are in season. No doubt about it. But how many administrators really care? That's the key, I think, Bert, on it is, unfortunately, you've got a lot of administrators out there these days who just don't know enough and aren't passionate enough about athletics on their campus. And so, look, athletics takes a lot of time. It's a lot of capital on administrators, and you've got some who would just rather not have some sports on their campus. And that's why we're seeing, I think, at the junior college level, I heard last night about another LA Southwest might be cutting their junior college football program. So unfortunately here in California, that's one of the things we're seeing out there on campuses where we're seeing funding getting cut because they don't think of it and look at it like you do as a coach, that this sport is engaging these student athletes to be here. I know, a couple years ago with everything being shut down, a couple coaches down there in the section did a really great job looking at some of those statistics to see how athletics does impact their kids.
So wait, can I ask one more?
Of course.
I want some free. So pretend I'm a paying customer, but I'm not paying. But my credit card got declined, and you don't know until next week. I'm thinking of going for the Francis Parker job, and I hire you as a consultant. What are you going to tell me to look for? What should I stay away from?
Well, I had a long talk with a Francis Parker AD last week, so I know exactly what they're looking for down there. And
no, what should I be looking for? I'm saying as a coach, what should I mean, I have to ask the question. Yeah, what's a red flag at a school? Not just Francis Parker. I'm just saying because they're open.
Yeah, I'd say that, I tell coaches all the time, you want to be able to sit and meet with those administrators, even maybe before you start to go through that process, try to get the attention of an administrator to see what is their vision. Look, our checkbooks tell us what the priorities are, right? And so if you go into a school district where you have to fundraise for footballs, that's probably not a good place to be. You're not going to be supported at the end of the day. And so head coaches need to look at the funds available. They need to look at philosophy, philosophy of field use. It's crazy. I was talking to a head coach down there in San Diego 3 years ago who he had finally had it. I kind of reached out, hey, why are you quitting this job? I'm tired of getting kicked off my own football field for out of season sports to be able to practice. And so that just kind of blew my mind, like a soccer team gets priority over an in-season football team to use the facility. That's just ridiculous. So, but again, that goes to that philosophy. So you better have a really good talk with the admin about the philosophy of sports, specifically, where does football fit into this school? So that's a real big thing. Philosophy, funding are the two major things. And then 3, are you going to have my back when a parent comes to you because Johnny's not playing? What does it really look like?
Yeah, that's the big one.
But don't they all say in the initial hiring meeting or talking at the interview, yes, we'll have your back, but how many actually do at the end of the day?
All it takes is an accusation of misconduct. You pick your flavor of misconduct, and boy, how many administrators really stand up for it's so much easier just to cut bait.
Yeah, just to bow down. And so that's where the informal, I tell coaches all the time, as they're looking at a job or even thinking about accepting a job, you better get on the phone to that last guy who was in that position even 2 guys ago to really figure that out. And then also talk to you guys. I tell coaches all the time, pick up the phone and get into the ears of the media, because nobody knows a real situation at a local high school like the media of that paper. The media people, especially sports writers, they hear a lot, and a lot of it's true. And so that's the other thing I tell coaches all the time, to look into talking to local media about a certain job before they accept it.
And I think that's the problem. I don't know anybody that really does all that before they go somewhere.
What? Well, I mean, there's only a handful of jobs now that are.
Well, here's the problem. So we had Lincoln coach on last week. You get a coach like Jason Carter. He's an OC, assistant head coach. He wants to go to another school. You automatically assume that your administration is as supportive as Lincoln's is, because that's what you see every day and that's what you think. But I don't think people think to ask, is this going to be the exactly same? And places aren't like that. I mean, principals don't go to games. Band gets practice over you before a playoff game on your own field. I mean, these things.
No, and it's what I'm seeing a lot of is guys who have coached for a very short amount of time, who think they're ready for a head coaching job. Now, not in this situation. You just referred to Coach Dunn's an excellent coach, but there's guys who work for bad head coaches who think, well, I'm ready. I can do it better than this guy. So they're jumping ship in a program just to go be a head coach without asking all these questions. And then in another 2 years, they're reaching out like, hey, this didn't work out. They're not doing their homework before they accept these jobs.
Does it get better, or are we on a downward slide that's irreversible?
In California?
It's a really good. That's a good question. I think we're in a cycle. Like, everything's cyclical, right? And so I think, especially coming out of COVID the last couple of years, it should get better. And I'm hoping that there's administrators who start valuing sports a little more to engage these kids. There's no doubt teenagers have come back different, so to speak, after being at home on the stupid homeschool on their Zoom for 2 years when they weren't engaged. Administrators are seeing that athletics engages kids more than anything else on campus. A lot of kids, a high percentage of kids. So I'm hoping it gets better at some point. But on the flip side is, some of the decisions made way above our heads at the state level with funding and all that, as we talked about earlier. I don't know that it will necessarily get better in California, where, we can hire a coach to just coach at least maybe half the day and then teach the other half. I mean, coaches are having to coach, teach 5 periods a day and then go coach. It's a tough job. I don't know that the treatment of coaches is going to get much better.
I know one of the questions I would ask if I was going to, I'm sure Chris apply. I'd want to know if there's a coaching period that would count as a class, so that you can start your day and have a legitimate leash. Because now with school starting later, I don't want to be there until 8 o'clock at night, so I'd want to make sure my Phi Ed class would be a football class that you could do some of your prep work or get your weightlifting out of the way. Am I all wet on that?
Yep, no, you're exactly right. And how does that, and what happens is, like me, I was a special ed teacher. So if I were to become a head football coach, in most districts, 9 out of 10 districts, I couldn't have that football class as one of my 5 periods I'm teaching in there during the day, because now I'm teaching out of my credential area. Again, that's a state issue. So then the school and the district get this little red flag that you got a teacher teaching out of credential area. So there's so many little nuances like that in our state that don't help administrators place coaches properly. But that's a great question. What kind of support am I going to have in hiring? I think one thing that's happening right now, right, is you've got 32 vacant head football coach jobs in Southern California. I'm telling some principals and athletic directors, don't hire guys right now, because you're hiring guys not connected to a teaching job, because teaching jobs we won't know about till February or March. You're going to hire a guy to be a walk-on, and that's not a knock. There's some great walk-on head football coaches, but there's not a lot of great walk-on head football coaches who have been somewhere 10 years. And so we see this cyclical thing where ADs and principals, they rush into hiring a head football coach before Christmas because they want to win that press conference and they don't want kids to transfer out. But then they're hiring a guy who's a plumber, or they're hiring a guy who works on this campus, drives 20 minutes to my campus afterwards to coach, and then they're disappointed it doesn't work out after 2 years. So I think there's some bad hiring practices timing-wise there too that kind of puts us into this cycle of coaching changes.
Well, that comes back to, again, because if I'm teaching 18, 20 years in this district, and I want this job in this district's collective bargaining says you can only transfer 10. What do you do? Do you eat the 8 years of your pension just to go coach there? No, you stay where you're at. And that's part of the reason you don't get a lot of good coaches, I think, too, in California.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, in Texas, none of that stuff matters.
Yeah.
You're going to take all the years with you. In a lot of states, that's how it is. Out here, our union dominates things a lot more. A lot of people don't even know about this, Here's a quick story. When Fallbrook wanted Randy Blankenship back in 1999, 2000, okay, Fallbrook's a one high school town. They met with Randy at a coach, might be telling you too much, but they met with Randy at a coaching clinic at a hotel. They slid a piece of paper over there. How much do you need? Here's what I need. They went back the next week. They changed their teaching union contract to meet the needs of his salary.
But it's one school.
Comes in and wins, one school. It's easy to do. He comes in and wins the CIF championship in 2 years. That's a school committed to doing things the right way. Former head football coach on that, leading the union charge. So that stuff just doesn't happen anymore. They were also sued by another employee who came in and didn't get the same benefit. That's another side piece, but no, it is. There's a lot of districts who limit you to only 7 years.
Yeah,
and
you're right. People don't. I mean, I don't interrupt you, but nobody knows that. I hear at Oceanside, it's like, why wouldn't Damon Baldwin go take the Oceanside job? It's because Damon Baldwin has 28 years in Ramona or whatever. They took his Sweetwater and whatever it was. You're going to lose 18 years of your pension if you go there. I mean, it's not about.
You can't afford to
do it. And a real world example of that is Ron now, who was Ron Kladnick, who was at Torrey Pines years ago. He reached out to me about coming to be special teams coordinator at Torrey Pines High School. At the time, my wife and I would have loved to get back down to San Diego County. I was going to take a $30,000 pay cut because that district only brings in 3 years of experience. That can't happen.
Yeah.
So, but that school district is on the coast. It's a great district. Everybody wants to be there. Supply and demand says you can only bring in 3 years. So, next time they're going to have to hire a head football coach at Torrey Pines High School. Who knows when that'll be? But you're not going to get a great candidate pool of outside guys when you can only bring in 3 years. And a lot of people don't understand this piece to hiring head coaches.
Hey, can we get back to let you brag on something a little bit? Because you brought up Fallbrook and how to see the little resurgence that they're experiencing. I get it that it's down a league or two, but still, I thought that was a school that was going to be a candidate for dropping its football program, and here they are playing in a section final.
Yeah, it's awesome just to see the resurgence of that program the last couple of years. Coach Everhart, who really, turned things around down there, and then Coach Johnson doing an outstanding job this year to keep that ball moving forward. I'm just, Fallbrook has a long tradition of proud alum, and I count me among those guys. We love seeing the Warriors have that success. That's a town that will. I mean, when I was talking to Everhart about that job before he took it, I'm like, dude, if you win here, the town closes up at 5 o'clock and comes down to the game. So that is one of those one high school towns that will really get behind things when they're winning, doing the right way, doing things the right way. And so it's been awesome to see the Warriors. I'm at that age now where like a lot of friends' kids are on that team, and it's pretty neat to see that.
Very cool.
Coach Johnson do the old napkin with a dollar amount written on it? Or no?
Yeah.
Hey,
I don't know.
I wanted to ask a question because we were talking a little bit about expectations. And I recently got an angry email saying that, or it was on Instagram or something. But anyhow, the point was, maybe it was a valid point. And Chris, by all means, you're a straight shooter, so you're not going to hurt my feelings. That a show like ours, I don't know how familiar you are with the Prep Picks and Report, but
Oh, heck yeah.
The feeling was that we create unreasonable expectations because we're always showcasing kids who are going on to college or their college commitments are on our air. And the person was complaining, you are creating false aspirations for the student athletes and their parents, which you alluded to earlier in this conversation. And in your view, are we guilty? How do I plead on that charge?
No, because you're first of all, I do know what PPR is. Shoot, I used to coach in Orange County, lived in Oceanside for 5 years, and I'd race home from my games to watch that thing. Okay, so I mean, what you guys have done down there the last 20 years is just amazing. I love it. I still watch as much as I can about San Diego football through PPR. So No, I don't think you are, because that's not the central focus of PPR. And that email, that however they reached out to you, that's ignorant because they're focused on one little thing. You guys are showcasing so many different aspects of high school football in San Diego County, and you have for 2 decades. So there are these. One of the things I don't like about some of these national telecasts that we see now is it's all about, like, these games on ESPN, they're all about the recruiting. And that's not what you guys are. Recruiting is not the central focus of everything PPR does. So I think that's ignorant. I would be a straight shooter. I do get annoyed by some of these national games, like I said, where, it's just all about the kids going to college. That's not who you guys are, in my opinion.
So speaking of recruiting, what are your thoughts on the transfer portal? I mean, last year was interesting. This year is just insanity to me. I mean, there's 70 Division I quarterbacks, I think, in the portal first day. I mean, I saw Drake Mays, North Carolina's the first-round draft pick projected in the portal. I mean, what does this do to high school recruiting, you think, or even junior college recruiting?
We're seeing it right now in high school, frankly.
And junior college.
It's killing high school students being able to be recruited. I mean, if these coaches are making so much money, right? If you are a coach trying to turn a program around, or you're a coach trying to win more games where you're at, are you going to trust 18-year-old kid graduating from Vista High School or a Boise State backup lineman, right? I mean, that's where we're at. And so, unfortunately, it's really limiting a lot of high school kids, even a lot of JUCO kids. I've never been in that picture, in that boat. And so it's easy for us, I think, to sit here and say, dude, fight it out. But in my mind, Bert, I'm trying to figure out, you want to go fight 300 or 400 other quarterbacks for a job, or do you want to fight it out with 2 on your campus? So I don't get it. I don't understand it, but I don't get it either.
It's like, I'm second team here, but I'm a 800th team in this portal right now.
Well, the hope is that you can negotiate your starting position, though. I mean, I watch Wisconsin do it all the time, where they've misfired the Mertz kid. They basically
but what they don't talk about is, of those 1,000 kids in the portal, probably 700-800 of them lose their scholarship and end up nowhere, or at a lower division.
I heard last night, I don't know if it was true or not, but only 40% of the kids in last year's portal got picked up. I mean, that's wild to me. Well, there was a guy last night on a Twitter Spaces from Washington State. He left because he didn't get the COVID shot, and so he started at Washington State the 21 season, and the 22 season he sat on his bed. I mean, he didn't have a job. He never got picked up in the portal.
Yeah.
So now his hand was forced because his convictions, he didn't get the shot. But how many kids are like that who have nothing to do with that shot? They just wanted something bigger and better and didn't play this year. I think it'll be really interesting for somebody to do 2 years of data on this portal to hopefully help kids at the end of the day be informed by, what the realistic opportunities are for you out there to transfer.
Yeah, because we're seeing we focus on 5 or 6 guys that are looking for Heisman or money or NIL, and those guys move around because they're going to be first rounders anyway. But the other 99% end up going nowhere. I mean, there's a lot of times there's a reason you don't play at the college you're at. You're not good enough. So if you go to college B, I mean, granted, you'll see the starters that are getting NIL money and they go, but the vast majority aren't good enough. That's why freshmen sit sometimes, sophomores sit, and you only start 2 years or 1 year. But now it's just like, if I don't start from day one, and you have to guarantee.
I wonder if over time that's going to change. Listen, Chris, we're keeping you longer than we're supposed to, but
you always do.
I know, Chris. I could talk to you for 3 hours. I mean, I'm an avid follower of yours, so just know that. And by the way, do you ever get in hot water for sometimes of your opinions you put out there? You don't do anything controversial, but anytime you're out in front of something, people tend to take shots at you. Do you ever get those shots?
Not in the last couple of years. I did a couple of years ago. I did, honestly, but not in the last couple of years. I've tried to be a little smarter. Moving into an administrative role, even as an assistant principal, enemies, people who don't like you, they will take things out of context, but I've tried to be a little smarter the last couple of years, to be honest with you.
Well, then let's wrap this up. how do you talk to parents? I mean, getting parents to be reasonable and to be quiet. God bless my old man. He went to every sporting event I ever went to, and he was always there, sat on his hands, and you never applauded. He just sat there like
because you never got in a game. What's he going to cheer about? That's my
All
son.
Right. Chris, I was.
Wait, that's.
Okay,
that's a lot better than my mom. So my mom, my second day of practice at Fallbrook High in 1990, she sat there, single parent. My dad died when I was 9. She waited for 45 minutes in the parking lot for our practice to get over. And for whatever reason, felt like she could go storming on the field to embarrass me in front of 60 of my buddies, and went right up to Jeff Pack, who was like my mentor's son, to fight and argue with him about why you're making us all wait so long. So your dad was a lot better than my mom.
But so let's finish this with a message to moms and dads out there. You put on your coaching hat, put on your principal hat, whatever hat you want. What's your message?
The message is parents want what's best for their kid, and they think their kid is the #1 draft pick. The message is sit back and let your kid be a kid. Let your kid be a kid. That's my message all the time to a lot of these parents out there in the athletic world. I see so many kids ran off. They've played club sports for their whole life, and then they quit when they get to high school because they never took ownership of that sport themselves. And all of a sudden, 9 years of playing club softball, they quit their freshman or sophomore year because they're not paying anymore to play, and now they're on the bench, and they don't love the sport. But mommy and daddy made them play all these years. That's my #1 message to parents all the time: is just let your kid be a kid. There's way too many parents living vicariously through their kids. I understand that temptation. I got a sophomore football player. I got a freshman girl playing volleyball. I've been upset at coaches the last couple years as my kids have played high school for various reasons. But we got to step back and just let our kids be kids. Let them fight those battles that we might not agree with. That's the biggest shift I've seen. This is my 23rd year in education. 20 years ago, parents let their kids be kids. Parents fought those battles for them. Now, if a teacher farts in the wind the wrong direction, we get an email about it from mom and dad, and at the end of the day, just let your kids be kids.
On that note, we'll call it a conversation. Please stop the machines. Chris, it's been a delight. I hope we can do this again because I didn't even get to half my questions.